So before we begin, I'd like to mention just a few things. Don't worry, this won't take long. I'm not sure if I was outspoken about this before, but I really didn't care to see Clementine's story continue. To me, she was perfect the way she was contained within her own narrative. All the themes expressed in the previous installment were expressed fantastically, and it was probably my favorite gaming experience. That being said, I'm not so diametrically opposed to the idea of her being the protagonist in this game that I'll let it influence my opinion. However, the original Walking Dead was pretty airtight as far as plot goes, and I really loved the slow pacing punctuated by passionate outbursts and not entirely set pieces. It's probably one of my favorite games of all time, despite the weak criticisms I've given it in the past. That said, this first season was absolutely not quite so airtight. It certainly had some interesting events, but the details and plot connecting those events are overall pretty weak, especially when compared to its predecessor. That doesn't mean I don't like it, there's some really good stuff in here to be sure, but there definitely were problems. One last thing, in order to save time I'm not going to be talking about the UI, but I will say that I thought it had some issues. If you want, I'll make a short video about it. Really, one comment telling you to make it will convince me. Alright, that all out of the way, let's get started.
We are not doing that.
Why not?
Because.
Come on, Krista. What's wrong with Omid?
We're not calling our baby Omid. One of you is enough.
Now, here's the first little question. How is it that this group only has 2 guns? Krista looks about 9 months pregnant, so we know this is at least 3 months since the events of the last game. 3 months into the last game, they had about a 1-to-1 ratio of adults to rifles, and everyone had a sidearm. The St. John's noticed that they had been stockpiling. How is it that these 3 only have 2 guns, and 1 is given to a little girl? Have they not been near any towns or done any salvage? You could say they hunt for all their food, but they would still need ammo. This isn't a huge detail, but as we'll see, it's that attention to detail that the original game had that's lacking in this one.
Remember that time in Barstow?
Vegas weekend? Why don't you, get cleaned up in the girls' room, Clem?
I hope the sink works in there.
I hope there aren't any zombies or people in there. Omid, perhaps instead of going to get a quickie in the bathroom, you should check to make sure it's safe for a 9-year-old to enter. Oh, it's so we can have a semi-tense scene while we're checking each door. I'm sure Clementine's becoming more capable, but she's still 9. Krista chastises Clementine a year and a half later about her still being inexperienced.
You should be doing this, not me. Tending a fire so you can cook and stay warm. It's something you have to be able to do, Clementine.
Meaning she was still inexperienced at this point.
Better.
Now, why do you need to clean your face? Speaking from experience, after spending a lot of time in the wilderness without showering, you start to get itchy in certain places. I suppose you can't do that because Clementine's 9, but she still doesn't need to be cleaning her face. There's not really a point to it. So Clementine knocks her bottle onto the floor and it rolls into a stall. This leads to a tense scene where a stranger walks in and starts going through Clementine's stuff, eventually finding her and holding her at gunpoint. Now, the stranger finds the gun in Clementine's backpack and uses it to hold her up, so a few questions pop up. 1. How did the girl not already have a gun? She apparently had already attacked another group and gotten some good stuff.
Why you ain't got nothing good? Not like the last people I got. They had all kinds of good shit.
A gun and some water are apparently junk to her.
Junk, junk, junk.
Clean water and a gun are perhaps the 2 most valuable resources in a zombie apocalypse. I guess the water fell in the stall, but how would the stranger not have seen it? It was definitely in her line of sight. What did she get from the last group that was apparently more valuable than what she got this time? Maybe she got an assault rifle and a turkey? And the reason she doesn't have it now is because she lost or broke the gun and ate all the turkey.
Give me that hat.
No!
Where'd you get it? I asked you a question.
My dad gave it to me.
Just give it to me.
So, a handgun is junk, but the hat? Oh, you gotta have that. I know people are gonna try to make excuses by inducing things, but I don't think the thought was put into this girl's motivations that these questions I pose were considered, considering the lapses in motivation the girl is experiencing. 2. Why does she care about this little girl? She clearly poses no threat because the stranger is holding Clementine's gun. Instead of asking her, where's your group? Are they in the next bathroom? How the hell did a 9-year-old survive for 6 months without help? These are extremely obvious deductions and questions that would arise in this situation, and one doesn't survive 6 months in the zombie apocalypse without having the base level intelligence to make simple deductions. Instead of asking,
You got anything on you? I ain't gonna ask again.
No, that's all I have.
That's it? How'd you make it this long? I'm serious. What else you got? Don't lie to me. I'll pop you. Give me what you got.
over and over, she should have asked what you got. Nothing? How'd you make it this long? Who are you with? Where are they?
I'm serious. What else you got?
And how's this girl yelling this loud and the 2 guardians next door don't hear it and immediately rush in? How thick are these walls?
Give me that hat.
Wow, low priorities. I seriously doubt someone this stupid would have made it this far. On their own, much less. Maybe she had a group at one point, but still, this is basic intelligence stuff here. Now, we previously saw Omid with the gun, but now when he goes to check on Clementine, it's conspicuously absent. I would think that someone coming out from the stall to possible zombies or people stalking you would bring a gun. Disregarding the previous questions posed, namely the implausible thickness of the walls connecting these bathrooms, why would someone not bring a gun when leaving a room into the outside world? We see that they felt pretty safe to talk aloud about baby names, but one does not make it 3 months in the wilderness filled with zombies and possibly dangerous people by not being paranoid. Maybe he left it with Krista so she'd feel safe, but he's the one going outside to see if she would be safe, so that is entirely redundant. Again, it's all about emotions, not about the logical connections between those emotions, the people taking the actions that cause the emotions. So anyway, Omid gets shot and Krista hears this despite how thick these walls apparently are, and rushes in, killing the stranger. Apparently the stranger, despite having previously bragged about killing other people, didn't mean to kill Omid, and doesn't kill Krista who rushes in after him.
I didn't mean...
That doesn't make any sense, but let's move on. Now, a neat little bit they do here is Krista looking at the gun Clementine was responsible for, indicating that Clementine is now aware of what her carelessness has done. Clementine doesn't have Lee anymore. She doesn't have a group anymore. She's going to have to grow up and accept responsibility for herself. This is a quick but important characterization where we see how this situation has affected Clementine, other than she's scared. But ultimately, after 6 months, she's still struggling with the same problem, failing to grasp it 16 months later. Well, I kind of rendered that neat little bit pointless.
You should be doing this, not me. Tending a fire so you can cook and stay warm. It's something you have to be able to do, Clementine.
And if they have, after all, been living in the wilderness all this time, how in the world would Clementine not know how fire works? 19 months later?
Omid said that...
I know what Omid said.
Oh, do you? You know every single thing Omid said in Clementine's presence over a 3-month period? That's amazing! I'm sure she's upset, but it's been 16 months. This time skip seems unnecessary if both characters are acting how they would a day or so after his death.
Krista, talk to me.
At this rate, we'll be eating this for breakfast.
It's okay. I can wait.
It's something you have to be able to do, Clementine.
Omid said that...
I know what Omid said.
But one thing to notice is that Krista is no longer pregnant, which is logical since it's 16 months later. This means that she either had a miscarriage, was unable to birth the baby without help, or any number of unpleasant reasons that may have caused the baby to die. Regardless, the baby's not here, and nobody's talking about it. This still doesn't tell us what happened or how long ago the baby died, but it's logical to assume that it did, and that it was sad for all parties involved. Now, the fact that without people around, Krista was not able to keep the baby alive by whatever circumstances should have led to some character change in her understanding the importance of a group. Krista was never fond of groups, even in the first game, but this is a huge event that should have made her at least consider it. Maybe she did, but we don't know because we never hear them talk about it. We never hear her feelings. We just know that she still doesn't trust groups because reasons. It's unlikely that they haven't run into anybody in a year and a half since The Stranger, so it's logical to assume that they may have had a bad experience with other people since then, but Krista's distrust of people seems misplaced, especially since Clem runs into a group of reasonably kind folks the very next day. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I'm freezing.
You think this is bad? Wait till we get up to Wellington. Then talk to me about cold.
This seems odd. You're planning on going north and haven't found any clothes? Now, it was autumn 19 months ago. We know it was autumn because of the color of the trees, so now it should be summer a year and a half later. How the heck is it cold? Regardless, you should be preparing by getting clothes. Maybe make all those wild animals you've been hunting into blankets. What about Clementine's shame hoodie from the first game? I can't see a reason for getting rid of that. Maybe she lost it somehow? I don't know, it seems like you should have extra clothes if you're heading north. And it was fall at the end of the first game because little time had passed between Chapter 3 and the end of Chapter 5. And it was fall in Chapter 3. So it was fall, then 3 or more months later it's fall still, and then 16 months later it's fall again. I don't think you're paying attention.
Is it safe there?
Safer than here because of the cold. Or so they say. We just need to keep moving north.
Who is they? You don't trust groups.
Hi, Miss Lee.
I don't think anybody didn't pick this option. If you did, I guess you're a terrible person.
I'm gonna go look for more wood. You just keep the fire lit.
What is kindling within this context, and why does Krista not have any? She was just complaining that the fire was not burning hot enough to cook their food. All the supplies to make this fire burn were right next to the fire, yet Krista complains. Gosh, dang it.
It's something you have to be able to do, Clementine.
So Krista gets confronted by strangers who want something or other. Clem throws a rock at one of them to help her escape, and one of the strangers chases after Clem. During the chase, Clementine fights off a man who admittedly might be holding back against a child, but Clementine demonstrates her understanding of what lengths must be taken to defend herself. It demonstrates that she understands the world far more than she did during the entirety of the first game. This is good. She's growing. I just wish Krista wasn't teaching Clem how to build fires that she already knows how to build. Anyway, so she feeds a guy to a zombie and falls into a river, getting washed up on a bank, waking up the next day. She meets a dog and somehow reasons that she should follow this strange dog with its collar on into the woods. Why she didn't follow the river downstream when she initially woke up, I'm not sure, but let's move on. She finds a camp apparently ravaged by scavengers and searches there for food. She finds the zombie with a knife that she needs and kills it, reiterating something that Lee taught her in the first game.
It's okay. We're smart, and he's not. We're smarter than all of them.
Then she just wipes it on her jeans. If you're planning on sticking that into food, you're probably going to be eating trace amounts of zombie blood, Clementine. You sure that's a good idea? So she opens up a can of food she found in the trash with the knife. Why it's in the trash, I don't know. Maybe they were hiding it from raiders? I can't see what scenario would have someone both hiding one can of food in the trash and also not being killed. Did they hide it before running off so they could come back for it? Why didn't they come back for it? Why not take it with them? Did they hide it before being killed? Where are their bodies? Maybe none of them were shot in the head and they walked off. Then why is this in the trash? The fact of the matter is we have plenty of knowledge to deduce what happened here, but nothing adds up. There's no reason this can should be in the trash. They have trash in the trash, so they're not storing stuff there. I know this section isn't about the mystery of what happened in the camp, but it's just odd that we can't tell what did happen.
I bet scavengers tore it apart.
Oh, yeah, scavengers and stuff. That explains everything. Anyway, so in this version, Clementine decides to feed the dog, but it wants all the food. So when she tries to get the food back from the dog, it attacks. We fight it off, kicking it onto some spikes that are there for some reason. We decide to put it out of its misery because we're not terrible people, and Clementine decides not to pick up any of the beans or take any of the dog meat with us, even though she's starving. Because she's stupid. Oh wait, no she's not. Maybe she's in shock, whatever. All in all, this scene is pretty visceral, and I can't recall ever seeing something like this happen in a game or movie. It's a pretty creative scene as far as I know, but the lead up was kind of lame. Oh, geez, that looks kinda serious. So we start wandering through the woods for an indeterminate amount of time. It looks like it's dark, so we'll assume that it's been hours. Now, I don't know why Clementine would suddenly pass out after all this time from shock, so we'll assume it's hunger. Zombies start coming, presumably from the smell of blood, but she's been wandering through the wilderness for a while, and no zombies have come. Maybe this is sooner after the fight with the dog than it seems, but then the environment is all off. So we get saved by some strangers who can reload crossbows ridiculously fast, and they don't grab even one of the arrows despite the fact that reusable ammo is one of the main reasons one would use a crossbow over a gun, apart from the relative quietness. They start to take us back to their home and ask us logical questions before asking us if the men who attacked us mentioned anybody by name. This will come back later. They introduce themselves before dropping us after noticing the dog bite. They don't quite believe us that it's a dog bite, but take us back to their doctor to have it checked out. So we pass out again from hunger and wake up with a crowd of people debating whether or not to kill us. From their conversations we infer that somebody is after them, and find out that they let someone with a bite stay to their own detriment. Somebody died. Now, this may just be me, but this doesn't look anything at all like a human bite. If an educated doctor can't tell that, then wow. Maybe it'll be a reveal that he wasn't actually a doctor, but still. So they decide to keep us overnight to see if this long, snout-shaped bite is indeed a dog bite. What we're supposed to figure out, as it's the only way to progress the story, is that we're supposed to sneak out and steal supplies to fix our arm. That seems like a great way to get into this group. What if I don't want to sneak out? What if I just want to wait till reasonable suspicion is alleviated, and I can say, hey, it's been enough time, I'm not bitten. What if I just want to wait? So we get to doing that and meet up with the doctor's weirdo daughter. She's been told not to talk to us, but she does anyway. She says she'll help us, and despite being a couple years older than us, as evidenced by her being about a foot taller than us, she asks to make a pinky promise. She tells us the importance of a pinky promise, and off we go. We find out that the one woman in the group is worried about her unborn child being alive, as well as descendant of a certain man. Presumably she is betrothed to one of the men in the group, and has perhaps been unfaithful. So we get the last thing we need, and we're back off to the shed. And what follows is an absolutely gripping scene in which we suture our own wound. Only adding to the unpleasantness is the effort gone through to make each individual fracking stitch. This is a great scene, but again, the lead up wasn't great. So then a zombie comes through the hole we made in the wall, probably attracted by our screams of pain, and we kill it, bringing the attention of the household. I recommend not playing this game while anybody isn't aware of what you're doing, because Clementine's grunts of pain or exertion sound like sex screams. So the nice guy acts nice, and the mean girl acts mean, and the doctor invites us in. One of the friendlier members of the group offers us food, which we will eat after the doctor checks out our bite and gives us the okay. The doctor scolds us for betraying the group's trust and talking to his daughter. He tells us that she's weird and that she doesn't know just how bad the world sucks. Clementine has known how bad the world around her is for 2 years now, so this stands in contrast to the relatively older girl. We tell him that's a bad idea, and he gets upset and leaves after expressing paranoia that somebody is watching them. Our new friend offers us food, and we make conversation. A member of the group who previously didn't trust us apologizes, explaining that someone previously got bit because they let someone with a bite stay. We forgive him. Turns out that the person who got bit was his mom. We're then invited to stay, and we talk about some of the history from the first game. Nice old guy comes to tell us to turn out the lights, informing us that we'll be fishing in the morning. Mean girl comes in and tells us that she wants us to leave. We let on that we know she's unaware of who the father is, and she gets grumpy. We say we won't tell, and she remains grumpy. So now that we hate her, it's time to go fishing. These two get into a petty squabble and make up upon Clementine's intercession. We see dead people and try to find out what happened. We find our bag next to one of the men who attacked Krista, but he dies before we can get any pertinent information out of him. So then zombies come and we have to run to one person or the other, as if a little girl running to one or the other will change who lives or dies in any way. This person chose nice old guy even though he was clearly bit, and then the other guy runs off. Now, in the next time on The Walking Dead, we see a myriad of problems that are to come, the most interesting of which is this.
I thought you were dead.
Now, I haven't read any speculation on who this may be, but these are my guesses. There's 5 people that we didn't definitely see die in the first game. Lily either ran off screen or took the RV. Kenny runs off screen or is almost certainly. We don't know what happened to Vernon. St. John is either killed or left to die, and in the latter he might have lived. Lastly, and obviously, Krista didn't die. Now, St. John is dead in one chain of events, so I don't think TellTale Games will pick him. Otherwise, they'd have to pick an alternative choice if he did die, and TellTale hasn't been known to waste development time making your choices mean anything. That leaves Kenny, Krista, and Lily. Having Krista come back would seem like they'd be playing it too pat, so I don't think it'll be her. And there's no reason for Clementine to think Lily is dead, per se. In one universe she has an RV, and in the other she isn't seen die. As unbelievable as it may seem that he made it out of that alleyway, I gotta say that the most likely person to come back would be Glenn. I mean, it'd separate this universe from the others, and each medium that The Walking Dead is translated into seems to want to do that. In all seriousness, I think it's Kenny. But because I think that, it almost certainly won't be him. And that's it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Now, I'm sure I missed something. I always do. If you noticed something questionable that I didn't, leave a comment. By the way, after expelling so much criticism on this game, I'd just like to say that Wolf Among Us is fantastic. Go buy it. Don't watch a Let's Play, don't pirate it, buy it. I give it an A+. Finally, I know I haven't made a video of this length in a while, so thanks for bearing with me, and I'll see you next time.